I am Madison Carter, 30 years old and living the dream in my tiny but perfect downtown Chicago apartment. At least I was until last Sunday, when my parents dropped a bomb over pot roast. "Your sister will live in your apartment," they announced, like they were telling me the weather forecast. Their eyes dared me to object, but I just nodded and cut another piece of meat. Some battles are fought in the moment. Others require strategy. And sometimes, you need to let a complete stranger open your door, if only they had asked first. Before I tell you this wild story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever had family members who think your boundaries are optional. Trust me, you will want to see how this unfolds. Growing up as the eldest Carter daughter meant one thing: responsibility. While other kids got allowances for existing, I babysat, mowed lawns, and tutored my way through high school. By 18, I had saved enough for my first semester of community college. 2 years later, I transferred to Columbia College Chicago on partial scholarship, working nights at a coffee shop to cover rent in a shared apartment with 3 other girls. No one handed me anything. Amanda arrived 5 years after me, a surprise baby who instantly became the family treasure. Where I was practical, she was creative. Where I was cautious, she leaped without looking. And where I worked for everything, Amanda simply had to ask. It was cute when she was 5 and needed someone to build her dollhouse. Less cute at 25 when she needed someone to pay her rent. Again. The pattern began early. My 13th birthday party was downsized because Amanda had a dance recital the same weekend. My high school graduation dinner became a family discussion about which preschool would nurture Amanda's artistic talents. When I landed my first graphic design internship, the celebration lasted exactly 12 minutes before Mom remembered Amanda needed new soccer cleats. I adapted, learned to celebrate my wins privately, built a life away from the suburban Chicago neighborhood where my parents still lived in the same 4-bedroom colonial they bought when I was 3. Their house remained frozen in time. My teenage bedroom converted to a crafting space while Amanda's room stayed pristine despite her moving out 3 years ago. Or rather, attempting to move out. The first apartment lasted 6 months until the roommate drama became too much. The second place ended when Amanda decided retail jobs were beneath her artistic temperament. The third apartment, the one she was now apparently being evicted from, had been a miracle of timing 8 months ago. I wonder if they ever had the rent conversation with Amanda, I thought while driving to our monthly family dinner. Probably not. My 1-bedroom apartment in Printer's Row was my sanctuary. 650 square feet of hardwood floors, exposed brick, and carefully curated furniture. I had painted the walls myself, installed floating shelves for my book collection, and splurged on a real leather couch that took 4 months of saving. The building was a converted factory with high ceilings and huge windows that flooded the space with afternoon light, perfect for a graphic designer who appreciated good aesthetics. Every piece in my apartment told a story. The vintage drafting table I used as a desk came from an estate sale. The mid-century credenza held my record collection, and the turntable I restored. Even my dishes were deliberately chosen, Heath ceramics in a soft blue that made my morning coffee ritual feel special. My parents had visited exactly twice in the 3 years I lived there. Both times, my mother had looked around with the tight smile that meant she was calculating how much everything cost and whether it was worth it. Now, sitting at their dining table with the same faded floral centerpiece they had used for a decade, I was answering the usual questions about my job at Vertex Creative. Yes, the healthcare client project was going well. No, I was not dating anyone seriously. Yes, I was still enjoying the neighborhood, despite the parking challenges. Dad passed the mashed potatoes. Mom refilled wine glasses. The conversation flowed around me until Mom cleared her throat. "You heard Amanda is having trouble with her roommate situation, right, Madison?" Mom said, glancing at Dad for support. I nodded, mouth full of pot roast. Amanda had texted a long, dramatic tale about her roommate Jessica being unreasonable about bills and boyfriends staying over. Well, they asked her to leave. Dad continued, setting down his fork with authority. She has until the end of the month. That is unfortunate, I said cautiously, already feeling the familiar tightening in my chest. Do you have any leads on new places? My parents exchanged one of their looks, the kind that had preceded every unwelcome announcement of my childhood. The thing is, rental prices are outrageous right now, Mom said, and with Amanda still trying to get her jewelry business off the ground, she needs to save money. My apartment suddenly felt very far away, and simultaneously too close to this conversation. Your sister will live in your apartment, Dad said, matter of fact, as if telling me about a change in trash pickup schedule. You have that pull-out couch, and it would just be temporary. Amanda, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly found her voice. I will barely be there, Maddie. I have so many craft fairs coming up, and I promise I will look for my own place super quickly. Her smile was the same one that had gotten her out of curfew violations and fender benders, the one that made our parents melt and reach for their wallets. I stabbed a green bean and said nothing. Oh, and would it be okay if I brought my cat? Amanda added, as if requesting an extra sugar packet for her coffee. I do not have room for a cat, I said finally. I barely have room for myself. It will be fine, Mom waved away my concern. Sisters should help each other. Remember how you shared a room until you were 12? I remembered. I also remembered who got the bigger closet, who had to keep her toys in labeled bins while the other left art supplies across every surface, who got blamed when the shared space was messy. We will help move her things next Sunday, Dad added, checking his calendar. I rented a small trailer, probably just need one trip. The decision had been made without me. Again. I took another bite of pot roast and let them talk, already calculating how long it would take me to drive home and how many hours I would need to develop a counter-strategy. The Chicago skyline glittered as I drove home, the familiar silhouette of Willis Tower, a landmark guiding me back to my apartment. My apartment. The phrase echoed in my head with each mile marker. My knuckles had turned white on the steering wheel. The classic rock station played in the background, but I had long stopped hearing it. 3 hours of smiling through dinner while my family carved up my personal space like a Thanksgiving turkey had left me numb. This was Amanda all over again. The same Amanda who borrowed my favorite sweater in high school and returned it with a mysterious stain. The Amanda who used my college application essay as a template, barely changing the personal details. The Amanda who had cycled through 7 jobs in 3 years because nothing was ever quite right. Barista at the organic coffee shop? The manager did not appreciate her creative scheduling needs. Gallery assistant? Too much standing. Administrative work at Dad's friend's insurance office? Too boring. Retail at an upscale boutique? The customers were entitled. Teaching assistant at a preschool? The kids were exhausting. Social media coordinator for a local restaurant? They expected too much content. Her current gig selling handmade jewelry on Etsy and at local craft fairs was going to be different, according to Amanda. This was her true passion, just like photography had been last year, and screenwriting the year before that. I pulled into my assigned parking space and sat for a moment, breathing deeply. My therapist would be proud. 5 counts in, hold for 5. 5 counts out. The lobby of my building welcomed me with its restored industrial charm. I nodded at the security guard and took the elevator to the 4th floor. My neighbor, Mrs. Gallagher, was getting her mail, her tiny Yorkie tucked under one arm. Long day, dear? She asked, noting my expression. Family dinner, I explained, which was all the explanation she needed, judging by her sympathetic nod. Inside my apartment, I flipped on the lights and surveyed my domain. The open-concept living room and kitchen suddenly seemed impossibly small. Where exactly did my parents imagine Amanda would exist? The pull-out couch was in my home office nook, separated from the main living space by a bookshelf. There was barely room to open the couch without rearranging furniture. I walked every inch of my apartment, cataloging my life. The kitchen with just enough counter space for cooking real meals. The bathroom with my carefully organized skincare products. The bedroom that fit little more than my queen bed and dresser. The living room where I unwound with books and Netflix. Adding Amanda would be like trying to pour a gallon of water into a pint glass. Impossible without significant spillover. I called Jasmine, my best friend since sophomore year of college. They did what? She practically shouted when I explained. Without asking you? I could picture her pacing her apartment in Lincoln Park, gesturing wildly, as she often did when agitated. Yes, and they have already rented a trailer. They are bringing her next Sunday. They did not even phrase it as a question. Just, your sister will live in your apartment. Jasmine went quiet for a moment, which was unlike her. Then, tell them no. It was so simple when she said it. 2 letters, 1 syllable. My parents do not hear no, I said, sinking onto my couch. They never have. Madison, you are 30 years old. You pay your own rent. You owe your sister nothing. This is beyond presumptuous. This is insane. She was right, of course. But years of family conditioning do not disappear overnight. When I hung up, I tried calling my parents. Mom sent me to voicemail twice before texting that they were watching a movie and would talk tomorrow. I texted instead, attempting to reason with them. Me, I really think we should discuss this apartment situation more. My place is very small. Mom, it will be cozy. Sisters bonding again. It will be good for both of you. Me, I work from home 3 days a week. I need my office space. Mom, Amanda is very considerate. She will work around your schedule. The same Amanda who had played guitar at 3 in the morning during my finals week? The Amanda who considered headphones optional when watching reality television? That considerate Amanda? I texted my sister directly. Me, Amanda, I know you are in a tough spot, but my apartment really is too small for 2 people. Amanda, Mom and Dad already told me it was fine. Do not be so selfish, Maddie. It is just for a little while. Me, how long is a little while? Amanda, until I figure things out. My jewelry is really starting to take off. I just need to build my Instagram following. Me, what about your cat? I cannot have a cat here. Amanda, Whiskers is super chill. You will not even notice him. Me, I do not have space for a litter box, or cat food, or cat hair on everything. Amanda, whatever. Mom said it would be fine. Of course she did. Sleep evaded me that night. I tossed and turned, imagining my carefully constructed life dismantled piece by piece. The project deadline looming at work seemed suddenly insurmountable, alongside this new family drama. My team at Vertex Creative was counting on my designs for the healthcare client presentation on Friday. The concept boards were nearly finished, but I still needed to refine the typography and color palette. My boss had entrusted me with this major account after just 18 months at the company, a vote of confidence I was determined to validate. The next morning, Tyler from the copywriting department noticed my distraction immediately. Rough weekend? He asked, setting a coffee on my desk. The good stuff from the cafe downstairs, not the office sludge. Family stuff, I mumbled, grateful for the caffeine. Nothing I cannot handle. But could I handle it? The question followed me through meetings and design revisions. By Wednesday, the stress had manifested as a persistent headache behind my right eye. You seem off, Madison, Catherine, my boss, said after I fumbled through an internal presentation. Everything okay with the WellPath project? Catherine was 45, impeccably dressed, and had worked her way up in advertising when women were still being asked to make coffee in client meetings. She did not tolerate excuses, but had shown me unexpected kindness when I had strep throat last winter. Just some personal stuff, I assured her. The presentation will be perfect by Friday. She studied me for a moment. Family or relationship? Was I that transparent? Family, I admitted, boundaries being crossed. She nodded once. Handle it. Whatever you need to do, your work is too good to be compromised by other people's drama. Those words echoed as I stared at my ceiling that night. Handle it. Whatever you need to do. The solution began to form, nebulous at first, then gaining clarity with each passing hour. By morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do, or rather, what I needed to not do. Sunday night's family dinner revelation had set off a chain reaction. By Monday morning, I had 17 text messages from my mother detailing what Amanda would need in the apartment. By Tuesday, my father had emailed a spreadsheet of Amanda's furniture with dimensions, asking which pieces would fit in my place. The correct answer was none, but that detail seemed irrelevant to them. I decided to approach the building management about visitor policies, hoping for some bureaucratic rule that would save me. Richard Gomez, the building manager, was arranging maintenance schedules in the small office off the lobby when I knocked. "Miss Carter, what can I do for you?" he asked, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I settled in, explaining my predicament as professionally as possible. "So officially, how long can guests stay before they need to be on the lease?" Richard adjusted his glasses. Technically, visitors should not stay more than 14 consecutive days without being added to the lease, but enforcement is complaint-based. He leaned forward. "Is your guest going to be disruptive?" I considered my sister's history, potentially. He nodded knowingly. "Well, adding someone to the lease requires management approval, income verification, and an additional security deposit. And we would need to convert your lease from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom rate." The information was useful, though not as immediately helpful as I had hoped. I thanked Richard and headed for the elevator, deep in thought. As the doors opened on the 4th floor, I nearly collided with a tall man carrying a moving box. "Sorry about that," he said, stepping back. The box balanced precariously in his arms. "No problem," I replied automatically, reaching out to stabilize the wobbling container. "Moving in?" He nodded, adjusting his grip. 4E. Just transferred here for work." 4E was directly across from my apartment. 4F. "I am your neighbor then. Madison Carter?" I offered my hand after he set the box down. "Marcus Reynolds," he replied, shaking it. "Any tips for a Chicago newcomer?" Something about his direct gaze and easy smile made me pause. "Do you like deep dish pizza?" "Is that a trick question?" He laughed. "Because I am contractually obligated as a New Yorker to say no, but I am willing to be converted." "Giordano's delivers to this building," I found myself saying. "Maybe once you are settled in, we could order in? Consider it your official Chicago initiation." The spontaneous invitation surprised me as much as him, but his quick acceptance felt right somehow. 2 nights later, we sat in my apartment with an embarrassing amount of pizza between us. I had cleared my dining table of work materials, a rarity that showcased how little I entertained. Marcus proved to be an excellent dinner companion. He told stories about growing up in Queens, his work as a security consultant for businesses, and his recent transfer to the Chicago office. I shared sanitized versions of my graphic design projects, neighborhood recommendations, and carefully curated anecdotes about my family. Until my phone buzzed for the 12th time that evening, and I could not hide my grimace. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked, concern evident. Perhaps it was the wine. Perhaps it was the mounting pressure. Perhaps it was simply finding a neutral party who might understand. Whatever the reason, I found myself explaining the entire situation with my family and Amanda's imminent arrival. To his credit, Marcus did not immediately offer solutions or minimize my concerns. He just listened, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "So they never actually asked if she could stay with you? Just announced it?" I nodded, refilling my wine glass. "My whole life with them, honestly." "That must be incredibly frustrating," he said thoughtfully. "What are you going to do?" "I have tried reasoning with them. They do not listen. I have tried explaining the physical limitations of the space. They think I am being selfish. I have even mentioned the lease restrictions. They suggested I just not tell the management." My fingers traced the rim of my glass. I think I am just going to have to let this play out differently than they expect. How so? I am considering not being here when they arrive on Sunday. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That is certainly one approach. Would it help, though? I shrugged. Probably not long term, but it might make the point that they cannot steamroll me. He nodded thoughtfully. In my line of work, we talk a lot about security systems and protocols, but the most important security measure is always psychological, setting clear boundaries and consequences. The conversation shifted to other topics, but that phrase stuck with me. Clear boundaries and consequences. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work deadlines and increasing anxiety. My presentation for the healthcare client went well, but I barely registered Catherine's approving nod as the clients left. My mind was too full of Sunday's approaching confrontation. Thursday night brought a panic attack, my first in over a year. I sat on my bathroom floor at 2 a.m, counting my breaths and trying to slow my racing heart. The familiar thoughts circled like vultures. I am a bad daughter. I am a bad sister. I should just go along with it. It would only be temporary. Why am I making this so difficult? My therapy session on Friday was a lifeline. Dr. Lillian Chen had been helping me work through my people-pleasing tendencies for nearly a year. What would happen if you simply said no? She asked, after I recounted the week's developments. They would ignore it. They would still show up with her things. And then, I would feel forced to let them in. Would you, though? She pressed gently. Are they physically stronger than you? Do they have a key to your apartment? No, but... The trail of implications hung in the air between us. Madison, you have been giving your power away to your family for years. They are used to you accommodating their wishes regardless of your own needs. The only way to change that dynamic is to change your behavior. She made it sound so simple. The key insight came later that evening, as I was leaving my building and saw Marcus testing a small security camera by his door. He explained it was a simple motion-activated model that sent alerts to his phone. Extra security for the new place, he explained. Occupational habit. As I nodded politely, the plan crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. I invited Marcus for coffee the next morning. The local cafe, 2 blocks from our building, had become a weekend ritual for me, their cardamom lattes and almond croissants a necessary indulgence. He arrived precisely on time, dressed casually in jeans and a gray Henley. Something about his measured movements suggested military background, though he had not mentioned it. Thanks for meeting me, I said after we had settled at a corner table. I have an unusual favor to ask. His expression remained neutral, waiting for me to continue. Remember my family situation? I explained my plan, watching his face for signs of judgment or reluctance. Instead, I saw thoughtful consideration. So you want me to pretend to be your roommate when they arrive? He clarified. Yes, just answer the door, act confused about who they are, and stall until I get there. What is your end goal? He asked, stirring his coffee methodically. The question caught me off guard. My end goal? To not have my sister move in, to make my parents respect my boundaries, to finally be seen as an adult with agency over my own living space. I want them to understand they cannot make decisions about my life without consulting me, I said finally. I want them to see me as an independent adult, not just an extension of the family unit available to solve everyone's problems. Marcus nodded slowly. Makes sense, but why not just change your locks and not answer the door? Because this has to stop for good, I explained. If I just avoid them, they will try again. I need to confront the pattern, not just this specific instance. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. You know, in security, we sometimes create controlled scenarios to test systems, show vulnerabilities in a managed way before real threats exploit them. Exactly. I seized on the comparison. This is a controlled test of my family boundaries. He considered for another moment, then nodded. I am in. But we should have a signal system. and you should move anything valuable or private out of common areas, just in case. We spent the next hour developing our strategy, exchanging phone numbers, and establishing protocols like we were planning a military operation. The focused planning calmed my nerves considerably. As we walked back to our building, I felt compelled to ask, "Why are you helping me? We barely know each other." Marcus shrugged. "I have 5 siblings and parents who still try to dictate my career choices. I get it. Plus, I believe in the right to control access to your own space. It is literally my job." His simple solidarity meant more than I could express. Back in my apartment, I began preparations. First, I packed a small overnight bag with essentials, planning to stay at Jasmine's Saturday night. Then I methodically went through my space, securing important documents, moving sentimental items to my bedroom, and clearing enough floor space that my parents would see exactly how small the apartment really was. Marcus came over that evening to install a spare security camera he had, positioning it to cover my entryway and living room. He showed me how to access the feed from my phone and set up motion alerts. "This is probably overkill," I apologized, suddenly feeling foolish. "In my experience," he said, "adjusting the angle, preparation is never wasted effort, even if you do not need all the contingencies." That night, I sent one final text to my family group chat. "I will not be available Sunday morning. Please do not come to my apartment with Amanda's things. We need to discuss this properly before any moving arrangements are made." The responses came quickly. "Mom, we have already rented the trailer, Madison. Do not be difficult." "Dad, we will be there by 11. Amanda has a lot to move." "Amanda, cannot wait to be roomies again, just like old times." They had not heard a word I said. Or rather, they had heard but dismissed it entirely, the familiar pattern that had defined our family dynamic for decades. As I stared at their messages, a strange calm settled over me. I was done being the accommodating daughter, the reliable sister, the family fixer. Sunday would be different. Marcus and I had dinner in his apartment Saturday night, a simple pasta dish he had prepared. His place was minimally furnished but oddly homey, with framed maps on the walls and bookshelves filled with history and technical volumes. "Are you nervous about tomorrow?" he asked as we finished eating. "Less than I expected," I admitted. "More determined than anything." "Good. Determination gets results. Anxiety just clouds judgment." We went over the plan once more before I left to stay at Jasmine's for the night. My phone was set to receive alerts from the security camera. Marcus would be in position by 10:30 Sunday morning, ready for my family's 11 o'clock arrival. As I fell asleep on Jasmine's couch, I wondered briefly if I was overreacting. Then I remembered my mother's dismissive tone, my father's presumptuous planning, and Amanda's entitled expectations. No, this was exactly the response the situation warranted. For once, I would write the script instead of just playing my assigned role. Sunday morning dawned bright and clear, the kind of perfect autumn day that normally would have me planning a walk along the lakefront. Instead, I sat in a different cafe than my usual, 6 blocks from my apartment, nursing an Americano and watching the security app on my phone. Jasmine had offered to come with me, but this was something I needed to handle alone. Besides, she tended toward the confrontational, and the situation required precision, not additional heat. At 10:15, my phone buzzed with texts. "Mom, we are on the road. Should be there by 11 as planned." "Dad, the trailer is packed. Amanda will follow in her car." I did not respond. Let them think I was still asleep, or in the shower, or simply not checking my phone. At 10:40, the security app pinged with a motion alert. Marcus was in position, settling onto my couch with a book as we had planned. He gave a small wave to the camera, knowing I would be watching. 10:55 brought another flurry of texts. "Mom, we are looking for parking. The trailer makes it challenging." "Amanda, I am here," buzzing up but no answer. "Dad, Madison, we are here. Come down and help." I zoomed in on the security feed, watching my empty apartment hallway through the camera. At 11:03, the doorbell rang. Marcus waited, as planned. It rang again, more insistently. Then my phone buzzed with a call from my mother. I declined it. At 11:07, the building intercom buzzed. I watched Marcus rise calmly, press the intercom button, and listen. "Yes, this is apartment 4F, he said clearly. "No, Madison is not here at the moment. Who is this?" A pause as he listened. "Her parents? I see. No, she did not mention anyone coming by today." Another pause. "Moving her sister in? There must be some mistake. I live here." I could imagine my parents' confusion and growing alarm. Marcus buzzed them up anyway. As we had discussed, let them come face to face with the reality of their presumptions. Through the camera, I watched my apartment door. At 11:12, there was a firm knock. Marcus opened it to reveal my parents standing in the hallway, expressions transitioning from annoyance to confusion. "Can I help you?" Marcus asked politely. My father recovered first. "We are looking for Madison Carter. This is her apartment." Marcus maintained his calm demeanor. "I am Marcus Reynolds. I live here with Madison." My mother's eyes widened. "Madison lives alone." "No, we have been roommates since I moved to Chicago," Marcus countered smoothly. "Almost a year now." "That is impossible," my father blustered. "She never mentioned a roommate. We are here to move her sister in." Marcus frowned, concern evident. "I am sorry, but there has clearly been a miscommunication. There is no space for anyone else here. Madison and I use both bedrooms." It was a small lie we had agreed on, to reinforce the impossibility of their plan. "Where is Madison?" my mother demanded, trying to look past Marcus into the apartment. "She had a meeting this morning," Marcus explained. "She should be back soon. You are welcome to wait in the lobby if you would like to speak with her." My phone erupted with texts and calls. Amanda had apparently joined my parents by now. "Madison, there is a man in your apartment." "Madison, what is going on? Call us immediately." I waited another 10 minutes, watching the increasingly tense conversation through the security feed, before finally responding. "I am on my way home now. Please wait in the lobby." As I gathered my things and paid for my coffee, I felt surprisingly steady. The time for avoidance and accommodation was over. I was prepared for the confrontation ahead. The 6-block walk gave me time to center myself. I rehearsed what I would say, focusing on clear, direct statements rather than accusations or apologies. By the time I rounded the corner to my building, I was ready. My family had not gone to the lobby as requested. They were standing on the sidewalk near the entrance, Amanda leaning against her compact car while my parents paced beside the rented trailer hitched to Dad's SUV. The trailer was packed with furniture and boxes, a visual representation of their presumption. Mom spotted me first. "Madison!" she called, striding toward me with that particular mix of relief and irritation she had perfected during my teenage years. "What is going on? Who is that man in your apartment?" I stopped a few feet away, creating deliberate space between us. "That is Marcus," I said calmly. "He lives in the building." "He said he lives with you," Dad interjected, confusion evident. "Is he your boyfriend? Why would you keep that from us?" Amanda pushed off from her car. Hello? What about me? Where am I supposed to go? All my stuff is packed." Several residents entered and exited the building, glancing curiously at our sidewalk drama. Good. Witnesses might help moderate my family's reactions. "No one is moving in with me today," I said clearly. "I told you this multiple times this week. You chose not to listen." "But we already rented the trailer," Mom protested, gesturing at the packed vehicle. "Everything is ready." "That was your choice," I replied. "You made these plans without consulting me. You assumed I would go along with it, as I always have. But not this time." My father's face flushed. "Is this because of that man upstairs? Has he turned you against your family?" The accusation was so absurd I almost laughed. "No, Dad. This is because, for 30 years, You and Mom have made decisions about my life without my input. You have volunteered my time, my space, and my resources without asking. You have prioritized Amanda's needs over mine consistently, and I have let you, because I wanted your approval. But I am done with that pattern. Amanda's eyes welled with tears, right on cue. I cannot believe you would leave me homeless, Maddie. Where am I supposed to go? The same place anyone else goes when they need housing, I said, not unkindly. You find an apartment you can afford. You get roommates through proper channels. You budget and plan. She is your sister, Mom hissed, stepping closer. Family helps family. I stood my ground. Yes, they do. But help is not the same as enabling, and it is not help if it is demanded rather than requested. A small crowd of neighbors had gathered at a discreet distance, pretending not to listen while obviously absorbing every word. I turned to address my parents directly. I would like you both to come upstairs so we can talk privately, I said. Amanda, you should call Brittany. Did not she offer you her spare room last month? Amanda's surprise confirmed my guess. We had the same social circles in high school, and I still saw occasional updates through mutual friends. Brittany had mentioned having a room available during the brief conversation we had at a mutual friend's birthday party. How did you know about that? She asked. I pay attention, I replied simply. My parents followed me silently to the elevator. The fight temporarily drained from them. Marcus texted that he would clear out to give us privacy, but I asked him to stay. His presence would help keep the conversation productive. The real confrontation was just beginning. The elevator ride to the 4th floor was silent and tense. My mother stared fixedly at the floor numbers as they lit up, while my father repeatedly checked his watch as if time itself was inconveniencing him. When we entered my apartment, Marcus was waiting in the living room, his posture relaxed but alert. I made quick introductions. Mom, Dad, this is Marcus Reynolds, my neighbor from across the hall. Marcus, these are my parents, Ellen and Robert Carter. Handshakes were exchanged with palpable reluctance. Could we speak privately? My mother asked, pointedly, glancing at Marcus. Marcus can stay, I said firmly. He has been kind enough to help me with this situation. By pretending to live here? My father challenged. By lying to us? Marcus met his gaze evenly, by respecting Madison's boundaries when others would not. The blunt assessment hung in the air. I gestured toward my small living room. Please, sit down. We need to talk about what happened here today, and more importantly, why it happened. My parents perched uncomfortably on my couch. I took the armchair while Marcus leaned against the kitchen counter, present but giving us space. For 30 minutes, I spoke more honestly to my parents than I had in years. I explained how their pattern of making decisions for me had eroded my autonomy and self-confidence. How their consistent prioritization of Amanda's needs had taught me my feelings were secondary. How their dismissal of my objections about the apartment situation was the breaking point in a lifetime of similar dismissals. To my surprise, they actually listened. Perhaps it was the shock of the morning's events, or the presence of an outsider, or simply the fact that I was speaking with a conviction they had rarely witnessed. When I finished, my mother spoke first. We thought we were helping, she said quietly. We never meant to make you feel less important. I know, I acknowledged, but impact matters more than intent, and the impact has been significant. My father cleared his throat. The trailer rental is non-refundable, he noted, his practical nature emerging even in crisis. I suggest you use it to take Amanda's things to storage, I replied, or to Brittany's if that option works out. Outside, a text alert sounded. My mother checked her phone. Amanda says Brittany can take her for 2 months while she figures things out, she reported, her tone suggesting this was a poor substitute for my apartment. That is good news, I said sincerely. I hope she takes advantage of the opportunity. So that is it? My father asked, an edge to his voice. You just decide family does not matter anymore? I leaned forward, meeting his gaze directly. Family matters enormously. That is why relationships within families need to be based on mutual respect, not obligation or guilt. I love you both. I love Amanda. But loving someone does not mean letting them make decisions about your life without your consent. My mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I thought we were close. I thought you would want to help your sister. We can be close without being enmeshed, I said gently. I am happy to help Amanda in ways that work for both of us. But moving her into my apartment without discussion was never going to be one of those ways. A tense silence settled over the room. Marcus quietly excused himself to the kitchen, giving us the illusion of privacy while remaining supportive through his presence. Finally, my father stood. We should check on Amanda, he said stiffly, and deal with the trailer. I nodded, rising as well. I think that is best. Will you come to dinner next month? My mother asked, vulnerability replacing her usual certainty. Yes, I said, but things will be different going forward. I need you to respect my boundaries, or I will need to create distance to protect them. They left with awkward hugs and lingering tension. Through my window, I watched them rejoin Amanda on the sidewalk. The animated conversation suggested she was not taking the change in plans well. Eventually, they all got into their respective vehicles and drove away, the half-empty trailer rattling behind my father's SUV. Marcus emerged from the kitchen. That went better than expected, he observed. The relief hit me suddenly, and I sank onto my couch. Did it? I cannot tell if anything actually changed. He sat beside me, careful to maintain appropriate distance. Change takes time, but you stood your ground. That is the critical first step. As the adrenaline ebbed, exhaustion took its place. I had been preparing for this confrontation all week, and now that it was over, I felt drained. Thank you, I said sincerely. I could not have done this without your help. His smile was warm and genuine. Yes, you could have, but I am glad you did not have to. The silent apartment felt like my own again, a sanctuary rather than contested territory. For the first time in days, I could breathe freely within its walls. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Thanks for nothing. Mom and Dad are making me put everything in storage except what fits in Brittany's spare room. Hope you are happy. I considered various responses before settling on simple honesty. I am sorry you are disappointed. I hope you find a good living situation soon. Let me know if you want help apartment hunting once you have saved some money. Her reply came hours later, after I had already prepared for the week ahead and was settling in with a book. Whatever. Brittany says I can stay as long as I need. At least she understands family. The old Madison would have apologized, would have felt guilty, would have reconsidered her position. The new Madison simply acknowledged the message and returned to her book, secure in the knowledge that she had finally held her boundary firm. The first week after the confrontation passed in eerie silence. No calls from my parents, no dramatic texts from Amanda, just the unusual quiet of family members regrouping after a significant shift in dynamics. I maintained my routine, finding comfort in the familiar rhythms of work and home. The healthcare project moved into production phase, and Catherine assigned me to lead concept development for a new financial services client. You seem more focused lately, she noted during our one-on-one meeting. Whatever you handled last week, good job. I smiled, recognizing the growth in myself that others could already see. Marcus and I settled into an easy friendship, occasionally sharing meals or watching movies together after work. His calm presence and straightforward communication style were refreshing after the emotional turbulence of my family. When I saw Dr. Chen for my regular therapy session, she listened attentively to my account of Sunday's events. How do you feel about how things unfolded? She asked when I had finished. Lighter, I realized. Like I have been carrying this invisible weight for years, and suddenly it is gone. But also sad, I admitted. I wish it had not come to this. Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. Both feelings can coexist. Setting boundaries often brings relief alongside grief for the relationship we wished we had. We spent the session exploring healthier ways to engage with my family moving forward, establishing guidelines that would protect my autonomy while allowing for meaningful connection. The silence from my family broke on the 10th day, with a text from my mother asking if we could have coffee. We met at a neutral location, a cafe halfway between my apartment and their home. She looked older somehow, the lines around her eyes more pronounced. We exchanged awkward pleasantries before she addressed the elephant in the room. "I have been thinking a lot about what you said," she began hesitantly, "about us making decisions for you without asking." I nodded, waiting for her to continue. "Your father and I," she twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit I had observed throughout my childhood. "We always thought we were doing what was best for both of you girls. But I can see now that I often assumed what was best without actually asking you." The admission clearly cost her something. My mother rarely acknowledged mistakes. "I appreciate you saying that," I replied carefully. "It means a lot to hear you recognize the pattern." She reached for her coffee cup, then set it down untouched. "Amanda is settled at Brittany's for now. They have worked out a rent arrangement." "That is good news," I said sincerely. "How is she doing?" My mother sighed, angry. "Mostly at you, but some at us too, I think. She expected us to fix this somehow." The familiar guilt stirred, but I recognized it now for what it was, a conditioned response to taking responsibility for others' feelings. "She will work through it," I said. "This is an opportunity for her to develop more independence." My mother looked skeptical but nodded. "Your father wanted me to ask, would you consider coming to dinner on Sunday? Just to talk. All of us, including Amanda." I considered the invitation. The old Madison would have agreed immediately, eager to smooth things over. The new Madison needed more information. "What are your expectations for this dinner?" I asked directly. She seemed taken aback by the question. "Just family time. Reconnecting." "And Amanda? Will she be expecting an apology from me, or another discussion about her living situation?" My mother flushed slightly. "I cannot control what Amanda expects." "No, but you can set the tone as parents. This dinner needs to be about rebuilding trust, not pressuring me to change my mind." To my surprise, she nodded. "I will make that clear to everyone. No pressure, just conversation." We parted with a tentative hug, the first step on a long road to a healthier relationship. That Sunday's dinner was awkward but necessary. Amanda barely spoke to me, responding in monosyllables when I attempted conversation. My father was stiffly polite, clearly unsure of his footing in this new family dynamic. My mother tried too hard, filling silences with nervous chatter about neighbors and relatives. But we got through it, and the next one, and the one after that. Slowly, incrementally, things began to shift. My parents started asking before making assumptions. Amanda found another roommate situation through Brittany's connections and gradually resumed normal communication with me. At work, my newfound assertiveness translated to professional growth. I began speaking up more in meetings, advocating for my design concepts rather than deferring to louder voices. Catherine noticed, promoting me to senior designer with a meaningful raise. My friendship with Marcus deepened as autumn turned to winter. We explored Chicago together on weekends, discovering hidden architectural gems and neighborhood restaurants. When he asked me to dinner at an upscale restaurant near the river, the shift from friendship to something more felt natural and unhurried. 6 weeks after the confrontation, Amanda asked if we could meet for coffee. She arrived at the cafe looking more mature somehow, her usually elaborate makeup toned down, her clothing more practical than fashionable. "So," she began after ordering, "I have been thinking about what happened." I nodded, giving her space to continue. "At first, I was just really angry," she admitted. "I thought you were being selfish and mean, but then I started therapy. Brittany suggested it, actually." This was unexpected. Our family did not discuss mental health openly. My own therapy journey had been a private matter. That is great, I said sincerely. How is it going? She shrugged. Hard, but good, I guess. My therapist helped me see some patterns, how I always expect others to fix things for me, how I have not really been taking responsibility for my life. The self-awareness surprised me. Amanda had never been particularly introspective. Anyway, she continued, twisting her napkin, I wanted to say I understand now why you did what you did, and maybe thanks for not letting me move in. I needed to figure things out on my own. Emotion tightened my throat unexpectedly. Thank you for telling me that. It means a lot. We talked for nearly 2 hours, more honestly than we had in years. About our childhood, our parents' different expectations for each of us, our struggles and aspirations. For the first time, I saw my sister as a complex individual, rather than just the favored child who complicated my life. By Christmas, a new family equilibrium had established itself. Not perfect, but healthier. My parents suggested a family therapy session, which proved surprisingly productive. The therapist helped us identify and name the dysfunctional patterns that had defined our relationships for decades. It will take time, the therapist reminded us. These patterns developed over 30 years. They will not resolve in 3 months. But we were trying, all of us. That counted for something significant. Marcus joined us for Christmas dinner, his steady presence a reminder of how this journey had begun. My parents welcomed him warmly, having long since forgiven his role in the apartment confrontation. Amanda brought her new roommate, a sensible graduate student who seemed to be a stabilizing influence. Looking around the table at my imperfect, evolving family, I felt a profound gratitude. The painful confrontation had been necessary to break the old patterns and create space for something healthier to grow. Later that night, sitting with Marcus on my couch in my still blissfully single occupancy apartment, I reflected on the journey. Do you regret it? He asked. The way things unfolded that day? I considered the question carefully. No, I decided. It was messy and uncomfortable, but necessary. Sometimes you need to disrupt the system to reset it. He nodded, understanding as always. In security, we call that a controlled breach. Sometimes you have to break something to make it stronger. As the new year approached, I realized how much had changed in just a few months. I had found my voice, not just with my family, but in all areas of my life. I had learned that true love, whether familial or romantic, respects boundaries rather than ignoring them. I had discovered that standing up for myself did not mean losing connection with others, but rather created the foundation for more authentic relationships. The journey had not been easy, and it was far from over. Old patterns still emerged occasionally, requiring conscious effort to redirect. But the direction was clear now, the path illuminated by hard-won wisdom. Have you ever had to take a difficult stand with family to protect your own boundaries? I would love to hear your stories in the comments. Sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most meaningful growth. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more reflections on family dynamics and personal growth. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. And remember, your space, both physical and emotional, is yours to define and protect.